week for a Gen Xer or morning for a Gen Xer. It's that first moment when you wake up. It's that anticipation, the preparation, the excitement. And the excitement was Saturday mornings. I'm talking about Saturday morning cartoons. Those were the jam. So the Saturday morning ritual with myself and my two siblings started probably before 8 a.m. And I did talk to my brother earlier, who is the oldest, and he confirmed what I remembered. So our ritual basically was we usually had 3 types of cereal in the house. The one cereal that we always fought over, which was Captain Crunch Berries. Then we had like a second favorite, which would have been like Golden Grams or Cookie Crisp, something like that. And then we had like the adult fiber-based cereal that my parents had that we would eat if everything else was gone as the last resort. It would have been like Grape Nuts or Raisin Bran or Cheerios, like, ugh. Anyway, we would fill the bowl with cereal halfway, put some milk in, then put some more cereal, and then more milk to even it out. And usually we had 2 bowls. So the ritual was, once you got that bowl of cereal ready, it was time to sit down and watch the magic. So I'm going to take you down memory lane with the cartoons that were broadcast in the mid to late 70s. So I am going to talk about the years 1976 to 1979, and I'm going to do it by network. So at the time, there were 3 main networks that are still around today, which is CBS, NBC, and ABC. And we only had 13 channels back then, so no remotes, don't forget. And so I'm going to start with the lineup of CBS and explain a little bit about the cartoons. So if you like this content and would like to hear more, please like and subscribe to my channel. And feel free to comment if I've left anything out or if you have any questions. So let's get started. So in 1976, the lineup was the Sylvester and Tweety show, and Sylvester was a cat who had a little bit of a lisp, and I loved him. And then Tweety was a little Tweety bird, so you kind of, I'm sure most of you remember who they were, but I will show you a picture. And then there was the Tarzan show, which was also animated. And then the networks also put out what are called live action cartoons or shows, which are not animated. So those live action shows in 1976 was the Shazam and Isis Hour. And Shazam was basically he was a boy, and I think his name was Billy, and he could transform into Captain Marvel. And he had a mentor that he traveled with in a groovy RV that he basically would bring justice and solve issues for other teens. So he was a teenager, and basically kind of like, lessons to be learned and whatnot. And then Isis was a science teacher who, on an archaeological dig, found this amulet that was like, and it was worn on her head, kind of like a headdress. And she would use it to speak to animals and use the elements for her superpowers. And then there was another show called Arc 2, which is an RV named the Arc 2, and it was driven by 3 scientists who were young. I don't think they were teenagers, but they were young, and they were in the 25th century, and they were looking for pockets of human forms, because the 25th century in this show, the world was basically disintegrated or war-torn by nuclear war and pollution. So they were looking for life forms so that they could rebuild the civilization. So that was 1976. So now we're going to move to 1977. In 1977, the lineup was Bugs Bunny, one of my favorites. And then there was Mr. Magoo. He was an old man. He was blind, and he went on all these capers. I don't think he was blind, but I think he just had really poor eyesight. And he just kind of went on a lot of adventures and got into like little scrapes and things like that, but was able to kind of navigate through the world with poor eyesight. So, and then there was another show called The Skatebirds. So I would kind of attribute it kind of like, if they weren't Angry Birds, but they were just called The Skatebirds. And they basically, it's kind of like solved crimes or had a nemesis that they, were trying to get away from. And these birds were on roller skates. So one of the birds, I believe, was a pelican, a woodpecker, and a pigeon. And then there was another show, which was a live action show called The Space Academy. And that was set in the year 3732. And it was basically a military school and kind of like, life in 3732 in school and all sorts of school hijinks, I should say. And then next was the Tarzan Adventure Hour. So that is the roundup for 1977. And now we're going to get into 1978. So 1978 was the Popeye Hour. And then it was the Bugs Bunny show again. And lastly, in 1977, there was the Tarzan and the Super 7 show. And that was like separate little shows, but the main feature was the Tarzan cartoon. And in these separate shows, it could be like different shows each week showing these other superheroes. And so we had Tarzan, The New Adventures of Batman, and then there was another show called like the Freedom Force. So I don't want to say they're like, like a whole show, maybe like a portion of it, like a segment. So the Freedom Force consisted of Isis, Super Samurai, Sinbad, Merlin, Hercules, and then another show was called Jason of Star Command or Commander, something like that. And then another show called Manta and Moray and Super Stretch. I remember Super Stretch. That was cool. And Micro Woman. And then Web Woman. So those were those segments that rounded up the Tarzan show. So that concludes 1978. Okay. So in 1979, it was all strictly animated cartoons. And it started with Mighty Mouse, the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner show, Fat Albert, and Heckle and Jekyll. So that kind of rounded up that whole 1979 roundup. It was just pure cartoon goodness. So I hope you enjoyed this vlog today. The next vlog, which will be coming out shortly, will still cover the years 1976 and 1979. But this time it will be the NBC lineup. NBC did have quite a few of the live action shows during the mid to late 70s. So there's a lot of content with those shows. So really cool stuff. And if you like and want to subscribe to my channel and talk some more about cartoons or ADHD or Gen X stuff, let me know. I'm here. Let's hang out. All right. Talk soon. See you next time.